Good morning. Closer to afternoon, but it's Tom Curran and Phil Perry with your daily training camp briefing. Patriots in pads for the first time today, Phil. But it's not so much what they did while they were out there, it's who wasn't out there for the full contact and who they lost.
Yeah, I think at the top of the list in terms of the notes to take away from today was Cole Strange had to leave early in the practice. Basically, the first or second full contact drill of the practice was blocking Lawrence Guy. They got tangled up. He went down with what looked like initially a pretty serious left knee injury. Got looked at by the training staff. Team doctor as well stopped and chatted with Bill Belichick briefly. He missed the remainder of the practice, but Tom, I did think it was important. It felt like they dodged a bullet. Yep. Because he went through a pretty extensive workout with the training staff and was on his feet for the rest of the practice. He never got back into practice, but at least they didn't cart him off. So it feels like maybe they dodged one there.
Yeah, he was down firing out of his stance and moving laterally and showing that he at least, whatever the situation is, it probably won't be a long-term situation. Additionally, we saw Jalen Hurd in the medical tent towards the end. He's a newly signed wide receiver who's coming over from the San Francisco 49ers. He's had knee issues throughout his career, trying to carve a niche here. Also, Ramondre Stevenson, Matthew Judon, and Trent Brown all exited practice and didn't partake in the contact periods. It's been so good to have Trent Brown out there on a regular basis. Do you have any kind of theory as to what might be going on? I tried to be nice, and I said, well, they know what he can do. Maybe they're trying to mix some guys in.
Maybe that's what it is. I mean, I don't know, and we'll try to figure that out. But it could be with both Brown and Stevenson, talking about really important cogs in this offense right now, and guys that Stevenson sort of wore down at the end of last year, and Brown, we know, has dealt with injuries and a variety of issues through the course of his career. So maybe there's some load management going on there. We did see both Judon and Brown come back to the field and watch practice with their teammates after they had departed for the lower field. They weren't even wearing their pads at that point. But that I would say is a pretty good indication that it's not an injury situation with Brown.
Meanwhile, with Stevenson down, it underscores the visit the Patriots had this weekend with Ezekiel Elliott. They need running back depth. We saw, as they put the pads on, a fair amount of red zone and goal line work, and Kevin Harris did the bulk of the duty there. When you look at the Ezekiel Elliott opportunity, you in on that?
Yeah, I'm in on any veteran running back that still has a little something left, and I think Elliott does. Now, is he the most dynamic ball carrier that's available? No, that to me still would be Dalvin Cook. But he can pass protect for you. He can catch the football a little bit. He's still been pretty effective in recent years in the red zone, some of these shorter areas where we know the Patriots needed help last year, and it's been a real focus this year. So if he's still in town and he's thinking about it, they could use him like tomorrow. They had 3 running backs out there today in a day that was supposed to be focused on the run game. And I give them credit. They actually did go through with their plan to have goal line at the end of practice today, basically a full contact goal line period, 4 snaps. They didn't do that at all last year. And, maybe there's some sports science reasons behind that. Maybe that's injury prevention. But they did it today. And I wonder, Tom, if they don't get a little deeper, both on the offensive line and at running back, if they don't have to dial back some of this contact stuff, because bodies are dropping already. We're only 1 day into padded practice.
And it did seem as if Bill Belichick, after seeing a couple guys go over like bowling pins, interjected himself into a period and said, can we please stay up? I'm presuming, over my years of watching, he goes bananas when guys are hitting the ground unnecessarily, because that's when guys get rolled up on. And we saw one of the defensive backs, Hawkins, get rolled up on, I believe. And that really brought Belichick out to speak to the guys. What did we see from Mac Jones? What did we see from the red zone? Again, Juju Smith-Schuster seems to be a guy that they feature. Kendrick Bourne was a little bit more involved today than he had been.
I felt like this was such a run game focused period that the only thing that I was really able to take away from the passing game were the types of plays Bill Belichick would actually call extensions of the running game. There were screens. So a lot of bubble screens, both sides of the field. A lot of, I would say, positive development for somebody who's an undersized body in that receiving group. The one thing they have at receiver is size. But Pop Douglas is a little bit of a misfit when it comes to that starting quote-unquote group because of his size. 5'8", a shade under 200 pounds. Still, though, Tom, with the pads on, I counted 2 or 3 impactful blocks that he made on screens that got huge cheers from the offensive coaching staff and from some of his teammates. So even though the pads are on, the physicality gets ratcheted up, one of their smallest offensive players still made a positive impact. His stock is rising.
Continues to rise. So I would say that is a check mark for today. Passing game was a little less emphasized, as Phil pointed out. But there is one player that I think is interesting to watch because on a year-in, year-out basis on the defensive line, Christian Barmore pushes people around like they are human wheelbarrows. It's really insane to watch how easily he moves giant humans, and he did it again today.
Can I ask you, I mean, it's one day of padded practice. I understand that. And Christian Barmore made an impact. I counted a variety of sacks. Anthony Jennings for one. Josh Uche would have probably had one as well. How concerned are you, if at all, about the offensive line? You're looking at a group that at one point was Connor McDermott at right tackle, Bill Murray at right guard, David Andrews, Antonio Maffei filling in for Cole Strange, and Riley Reif filling in for Trent Brown.
It's not a deep offensive line group to begin with. Calvin Anderson, offensive tackle, signed from the Broncos. He still hasn't been on the field yet. So you're down Anderson. Today you were down Brown and Strange. You're down Mike Nwenu. And you have Riley Reif, who did not show well in his first OTA extension periods and was replaced by McDermott at the top of the food chain, has moved over to the left tackle spot. So it's definitely a concern. But again, it's something that it's a little too late to address now. So you have to hope development among these guys that they're putting in there is significant, and that Adrian Clem, who Phil you asked about today, is persuasive in getting these guys into a position where they can actually protect Mac and hold back what's a really good defensive front.
It is a good defensive front, and I do give them credit because they were able to help the offense punch it in twice for touchdowns in those goal line reps. So there were 4 total, 2 and 2. Defense 1-2, offense 1-2. So I give them credit there. Interesting little wrinkle on the goal line. They used Jelani Tavai as their fullback. Now, he got blown up at one point by Jabril Peppers, fellow defensive teammate. And Peppers actually pushed Tavai back into Kevin Harris, stopping him short of the goal line. But the offensive line showed out well there. That's just not a group, Tom, in my opinion, that you can get by with in the regular season. 1 or 2 injuries to this group, it gets very dicey very fast.
All right, so for the rest of today, Phil and I are going to get down. We're going to get some access, talk to some players. We'll see. Cole Strange is scheduled to talk. Injury may have waylaid that plan. We will have on NBCSportsBoston.com and on your favorite podcasting apps a Patriots Talk podcast coming up. Phil and I will bat around a number of things that we've seen in the first 5 days of practice. Additionally, get into a comment made by Matthew Slater last week about this team trying to find its identity after casting about really for what's going on 4 seasons. Who are they? What are they about? They have to establish that because last year they were not themselves. So we'll talk about that. We also have early edition. And Phil, you're going to have some of your Mac Watch.
Yeah, the Mac
stock
report
up, stock down.
And the Stock Watch.
All right.
You're on it.
And
you read them every day. I know you do.
You look for my daily briefing in digital form as well. Thank you, of course, to Casey Keene, who's just done a stalwart job out here in producing. Casey, wave to the camera. You can't see her.
Why would she do that? She's behind the camera. I don't know why she would do that.